Hey y'all, and welcome to my channel. On this page, I talk about technology and money, and then also sometimes trending news. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad either the algorithm brought you here or someone shared my channel with you. Or if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So today, I want to talk about a book that I read last week. The title of the book is on the screen, but if you're listening just in audio format, the title of the book is called The AI Revolution in Medicine, GPT-4 and Beyond, by Peter Lee, Carrie Goldberg, and Isaac Cohane. It was a really interesting read, and I'm going to try to keep this book review under 10 minutes. Let me just say who this book review is for. So the title says The AI Revolution in Medicine, and one of the authors is a physician. The other is like a PhD type person. But I'm talking about it as a registered nurse, and I think there is value in people who are not in medicine, who are registered nurses, who maybe not even work in healthcare, to read, if you want like a real good in-depth review of what generative AI is, such as GPT-4, where it came from, very comprehensively, the background on how the research was done on it, like what is made up of in terms of like large language models. I think this is a really good read. The book itself is about 286 pages, but not all of that is text in terms of like content. Some of it is like references and things like that. But I wanted to do this review on it because, well, first of all, I read the book in 4 days. It was very interesting and engaging read on the background of generative AI, but really got me thinking about the impact it will have, not just to medicine, because I'm not a physician, but to nursing and nursing at all. And I've said in the past, when I talk about nursing, I mean in nursing at all levels, whether you're a registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, or a certified nursing assistant. Okay. Or even if you're not a certified nursing assistant, but you do clinical type things that don't require like licensure or certification. And there are those type of roles in healthcare, but even like administratively, or again, even if you're not in healthcare, this book really got me to thinking on, when I read through it and the authors acknowledge and talk about the rapid pace of change that this generative AI is, the course that it is on. And so this book focuses on GPT-4, but I would not be surprised, based on what I read, if GPT-5, GPT-6, GPT-7, and further iterations will be released like within the next 1 to 2 years. It is the way the research and the pilots and the studies people are doing on generative AI, learning and how fast these large language models, and GPT-4 is just like one product. Of course, there are other ones out there beyond just like OpenAI. Like there's other providers, but the pace at which this GPT-4 is like being implemented and being used for use cases is so rapid. It's so much faster than I ever thought it was. Okay. And so this book gives like a very good comprehensive background on what it is, where it came from, the research. They give a lot of use cases in this book, like from a provider, like a physician's perspective, or if you want to say like an advanced practitioner, such as a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant as well. But I can also see, as a nurse, so many different use cases, or even like administratively, that this can be applied to. And they give use cases for that, but it also got me to thinking as well. But it is very much a rapid pace of change. And one of the things that was most surprising to me that I was not aware of in reading this book, which is a concern for myself, but is also acknowledged by the authors, is this tendency for these large language models, first of all, how humanized, okay, how GPT-4 and other iterations similar to it is how it is more human-like than older AI systems. And when I say human-like the author gives you the prompts that they have been that they did when they were researching and like understanding like GPT-4, GPT-3, etc. But when you read the prompts that the authors wrote and then the responses that the AI gave back to like the physician or whomever was doing the prompt, it's very much human-like, very much like you are having a chat conversation with a human being. And the authors like repeatedly remind you as a reader that this is not a human being responding to you and, you know, giving you advice or giving insight. So for example, in one of the use cases or one of the prompts, the physician gave the AI, said, you know, I have this patient, they're this amount age old, they're presenting to this emergency room or wherever, and they have these symptoms. This is their history, their medical history. What do you recommend as a course of action? And then you can see the provider going back and forth. And the AI is using like its knowledge, you know, what it's been trained on to give like recommendations on treatment plans. Okay. But as the conversation is going back and forth between the AI and provider, the responses of the AI, I didn't realize how that's another word for human-like. There's a big word for it. I can't, but how human-like the responses are. But one of the most surprising things to me that I was not aware of was this tendency for generative AI, or in this case, GPT-4, to hallucinate or give incorrect information. And when you call it out on the incorrect information it gave you is like, oh, I apologize, or yes, I made that up, or etc. But yeah, that's one of the big weaknesses that I see, that it hallucinates or it gives very highly convincing things that it just makes up. It may fail to give you information, like it omits very critical information, like if a provider is like asking for insight on a treatment plan, or it just neglects to give you something, where if you don't have a human being who is not diligent in validating what the AI is suggesting before implementing, it could be detrimental to the patient. But it's really interesting how the AI in this iteration, how intelligent it is and how it is becoming more and more intelligent. But one thing they really couldn't answer, and they acknowledge this, is like, because it's not, at least I didn't get it from the text. It was there. If it was there, I missed it. But I do believe the authors did say it is not widely known on what, like, for example, the OpenAI, what it was trained on. Like, how does it know what it knows? Is it from like Wikipedia, the internet? Like, where was the data fed? Like these millions and millions and millions of data points. I'm just continuing to read through my notes here, because again, I wanted to keep this very brief. Yes, subtle errors, risk, and etc. But one of the interesting things that I picked up was that as smart as generative AI, GPT-4, and other iterations are, is it is not able to solve Sudoku puzzles. So what is it about a Sudoku puzzle? Like the AI, it can solve like other puzzles and other things like that. But they highlight in this book, I think it's like on page 169, 170, something like that, how it is not able to solve those type of puzzles, and it's unaware of its ability to do so. Another interesting thing about this GPT-4 is there is limitations in, like, if you have a session open, like it can go for a certain amount of time, but once you close that session and you open a new one, it doesn't remember the prior conversation that you may have with it. But one thing you can do, like if you are using like a generative, like something like GPT-4, like if you're a provider or a nurse in this case, to help you come up with a treatment plan and decision making, to help get around that issue of like the AI's tendency to sometimes make things up or to hallucinate, you can open up a second session and validate the first AI's input with the second AI, and it will catch errors in the first prompt or the first suggestions, like the suggestions that the AI gave you in another session. That second session can sometimes catch that. It's really interesting. Okay. So they talk a lot about like the limitations, limitations in terms of like diversity and ensuring that these models, the performance of them, the vetting of them, the training of them is done so on a diverse population. Because again, in this case, some of these iterations, you don't know, they don't know, we don't know what they were trained on. But like for any future releases like GPT-5, 6, 7, etc., that is done on diverse populations, the same with an executive leadership team, diversity of thought, diversity of solutions. Okay. But yeah, so one thing I would challenge in closing and wrapping up is, it was interesting, like right towards the end of, actually was after the end of the book, it was like in the epilogue, which and there may be news about this in the wider media. I haven't seen it, but just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But Microsoft announced, and this book came out in April, by the way. I think it was like April or May. But anyway, Microsoft announced that they will be integrating GPT-4 into Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and also Microsoft Outlook. So when I saw that, one of the first things I thought about, well, if this generative AI is integrated into my Outlook, one thing I would love for it to do is read through my email and let me know urgent, because sometimes my email, I can have like literally hundreds of emails. But let me know based on the type of work I do, et cetera, what are those urgent things that I should be responding to. But anyway, yeah, so that's really interesting. And that was after like the book was done, finished being written and everything. And the authors are like, that just speaks to how advanced and how fast things are progressing. But one last resource I'm going to share, if you don't have the capacity to read through this whole book, whether you're a nurse or not, I do have a resource to share. Let's see. This is an article that was just released in the by the Computers, Informatics, and Nursing Journal, and I talked about that in my prior video, and how CIN will be doing a special edition on artificial intelligence and its impact to nursing practice, because it's just becoming so pervasive so fast. But this PhD prepared registered nurse wrote an article in Computer Informatics and Nurses about the disruptive impacts of next generation generative artificial intelligence. Very high level overview. I think this article is only about 3 or 4 pages. I will leave a link to it. I'm not logged in right now, so I can't like share the entire article. But if you're a clinical type person or nurse and you just want a really good high level overview of how disruptive this technology is going to be for nursing and people who work in healthcare in different roles, that's a really good article to read. Okay. All right. So my last challenge to you, if you're still listening here, let's stop that, is no matter where you practice as a physician or registered nurse, if you're an administrative type role, if you're not in healthcare, I would highly recommend, if you have not started, start thinking about use cases where this type of generative AI can help you, not replace you, but help enhance the work that you do. So like if you're at the bedside, what are some things that generative AI can do to help you be more efficient as a nurse and maybe spend more time with your patients? There was another article I saw where a PhD prepared nurse is looking at the potential use of AI in nursing documentation and helping nurses with their documentation, just very similar to how some organizations are testing it out with physician notes. So I think that can also be applied to nursing. So just think about it, because y'all, it is coming very fast, very rapid. And yes, that's it. That's all I had today. Thanks everyone who continues to share the videos and also send in comments. And I'd love to hear, if you made it this far in the video, if you had any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Y'all take care, and I'll see you in the next video.